what positions, or just one position singular, are you most excited for in 2023 with the Bears?
Right. Um, I didn't really want to go the obvious route. Justin is obviously number one on my list. I'm excited, a little anxious about just how it's all going to play out. Really, the wide receiver room. I think we've touched on it the last few weeks. Just seeing what Moore, Mooney, Claypool, even tight ends. Komet, Tunyon, what they could do in this offense. But I think a really underrated room right now is just the whole secondary. Jalen Johnson still here. Hopefully, we could work out a smaller contract, but I don't. I don't really see it getting done. We still have Gordon, Vildor, the rookies, Terrell Smith. I really liked him. Fifth round, I believe, fifth round
Yeah.
pickup. hmm Even getting rid of Houston Carson, I believe they did not bring him back. The sixth round rookie, I think seventh round, Kendall Williamson
Mhm.
from Stanford.
Yeah.
He took the number 36, so I think that confirms.
Oh, I didn't realize that. That's
Yeah, yep,
that confirms it.
yep. No more DeAndre, but I would like to see what he has in just limited snaps, special teams. Take that DHC role. Yeah, it's a really exciting room. Even last year's undrafted rookies, Blackwell, Jalen Jones. I think they proved a lot last year that they could hang around. They could play with these guys, and I think it's a bright spot right now. It's a really bright spot.
I love that you brought up too, because I feel like when everybody does discuss the DB room, a lot of the focus is on obviously the guys that were here last year, right? Brisker, Gordon, Jackson, Johnson. But then usually the first rookie that gets brought up is Stevenson, right? Because he was
hmm
the second round pick. But I like that you brought up some of the depth guys, because when you really do sit back and actually look at it and think about it, they did invest heavily in that DB room from a depth perspective later in the draft. Took some shots on guys, hey, we like some part of his game. Let's see what he's got. Especially in a good franchise, right? Like we see it all the time. Not every rookie makes an immediate impact. Some guys take 2, maybe 3 years to make an impact on the field regularly. But who's to say, to your point, right, that a Williamson or a Smith can't step up and be an impactful player on special teams?
Yeah, well, as you were going about the answer, you said like I don't want to pick the obvious one. I was thinking like, man, that's a good thought process. Like what would I pick if I wasn't like if I was sitting there going like everyone's going to pick receiver. I don't want to say receiver. And my brain went straight to corner. Like it is going to be interesting to see how this all plays out this year with how Kyler Gordon. I kept wanting to say Kyle Gordon.
Right.
Kyler uh how you see him play in the slot exclusively because he's a guy who he had a tougher time in the slot than outside last year, but it's
hmm
the coaching staff seems to like him better there. He seems to be more confident in the slot and like it better based on everything he said. So I'm really interested to see how that plays out. How I mean, I think Tyreek Stevenson was a guy who was heavily overlooked by a lot of draft analysts because he might not fit your man heavy scheme where you're going to need him following receivers off of every double move and like tailing guys like crazy because of his agility, but he's an outstanding fit for some schemes, and I think the Bears are one of those schemes. So I'm really interested to see how his straight line explosiveness plays in this defense because I think it's going to be really good. And then Jalen Johnson wants to be paid like a cornerback one. I think he has the talent to be that. He needs to stay healthy, but he wants to be paid like it. It's a contract year. Those seasons are always fun for those guys because they leave it all on the field. There's a lot of dollars on that field for him this year to go get. And then, yeah, I mean, I was actually a fan of the corner out of Minnesota that you mentioned, Terrell Smith. Is it?
Yep. hmm
Yeah, Terrell Smith. I was a fan of his tape. I only got to watch one game going into the draft process because I was mostly focusing on the pits. But But I did watch one game of his, and I was like, okay, I can see this guy being a good fit for this defense. He has a lot of similar traits to Tyreek Stevenson, so I think there's a lot of interesting stuff in that secondary that you mentioned and touched on. That I think it's a really strong answer.
Like sort of thinking back to last year's draft, right? I mean, we thought that they were athletic, right? And which they are, super athletic, super physical. But you look at this year's draft. I mean, we're bringing in Stevenson, Smith, Sewell, even Dexter. Like this is extremely athletic draft class, and like if you were to compare like this year's and last year's draft class, I think they're just going to run them out of the gym. I mean, these guys, it's unreal. Their RAS scores, I forgot the number, but was it high eights or was it near nine? I forgot the RAS score, but it's unreal. The athleticism of this year. Yep.
And I think it's important to mention not just athleticism, but athleticism at premium positions.
Right.
You know,
Mm.
offensive tackle, cornerback, defensive tackle. Some people say isn't as premium of a position. I think it's the most premium position personally outside quarterback because you just don't find defensive tackles that often who are that special and
Mhm.
that, that much more than a run stuffer that can really generate a push. So like throwing your chips in on athletic guys there, I think is smart. I think that's how you find some of the guys who might have been overlooked. So not just getting the athletes, but getting them at premium positions, I think is a big deal for me and something that I applaud polls for.